All right, we're back. Just watched episode 5 of Rings of Power. Okay, so it starts in a good place because we start with the proto hobbits. As I've been saying from the beginning, they're probably the best written parts, which is a really low bar. Their scenes function from a structural level, and the characters in them have relationships. The first scene is with Nori and the stranger's clearly learning language and they're communicating, and there's some sweet moments in that. It's just there's a wholesome quality to it that is pleasant, and the characters in it are likable, especially in comparison to the rest of the show. So that was nice. They do some traveling. We see some maps. There's a song in it that takes some couple, one or two lines from some of Tolkien's poetry. I I don't have much to say on the song. I felt it was a little childish. It was not that objectionable. I don't have a strong opinion of it. It definitely didn't sound like a Tolkien song, um, but it's fine. There's this shot of this new character that we don't see again for the rest of the episode that is shot in a sinister way, but might not actually be sinister. Um, okay, we get this scene with Adar, the most interesting character in this show. I wish they were more consistent with how the orcs speak about him, because they Adar, and it meaning father, and that they kind of establish that, and then they start calling him my lord. I kind of wish they drop that and like keep the father angle, just because it's compelling, and also why keep switching the names? You established his relationship with the orcs rather well. It's one of the few things you established well. Don't muddy the issue there. I want to see more of him. He's interesting. Less interesting is the healer lady giving a speech about how we need to fight them. They really do a very bad job of establishing who she is, right? She's just kind of like this healer lady that gets stuff done, and she's been in charge because she's the only one who's stepping up to the plate, right? But you don't see, there's no character arc with this speech. There isn't like she's conflicted or anything. We don't know. There, I think it would have been more inspiring if she wasn't always in that mode. I don't even know what to say. She's just kind of eh. Then the crowd gets swayed by this other guy that's been throughout the episodes, and half of them go off to swear allegiance to Adar, and half of them are saying to guard the place. And okay, and then we go back to Numenor. I'm telling you, if this freaking go back and forth is just it kills the story, man. It kills it. It really does. I wish, putting aside all of its problems, even if all of its problems still stayed intact, but you just narratively clumped the stories together, like more anthology like, I think just would flow better, because you'd be able to get into the characters, you'd get into the get lost in the world, but you're always dipping your toe everywhere. You're not settling. There's no settling. It's like they're scared to settle. Anyway, where are we? We're with this we're with the Siller sister and the Chancellor's son, who are clearly like have a thing or something. And she and him are arguing about, she's trying to get him to convince her father to not go through with something. And they don't really. Now, I assume based on last episode that has to do with the whole going to war for Galadriel thing, but we don't establish like what side of that she's on, or what side the Chancellor's son is on. So this argument, like we need to convince him to do, we have no idea what they're talking about. They don't establish what they're even talking about, which is crazy. It's such a weird way to do that scene. Isildur wants to be on the expedition to go with Galadriel, and his father's having none of it because he kicked himself off the Sea Guard and didn't take things seriously, and now he wants to take things seriously. Honestly, I am so on the side of like all the people who are giving him crap. Them all like turning against him felt weirdly satisfying. I don't know. It's just nice to have there be consequences for a character's actions. We don't see that every day, so that was nice. I like that. I'd like to see some consequences for people's actions in other scenes. And so Halbrand Sauron, he's doing blacksmithing, which is great, because it's like, oh my god, like the highest servant of the archangel of blacksmithing is doing blacksmithing, and this random human like forge, and they're like looking at the sword and like, And I'm like, yeah, I'm sure the sword looks great. So I honestly, they underplayed that because they can't overplay it or it makes it obvious it's Sauron. But God, it was just, it's already obvious it's Sauron. Like this Smith, goodness gracious. Anyway, Halbrand does not want to be involved in this expedition to save the Southlands, but they call him to the council meeting anyway. And the way this is cut is fascinating. He's in this forge. The one guy's like, there's people here to see you. And Halbrand looks over his shoulder, and then suddenly it cuts to him walking into the chamber room. So he goes from someone's here to see you to him going to see someone else. There's clearly the scene of him seeing the guard and the guard saying, come with us. That's clearly the scene in between. But they don't have that scene. So it's such a weird cut. And I was so confused by why they were doing that until later in the episode. The same thing happens where Halbrand is called to the council meeting. And this time they do show it where there's a guard like we need to come with us. And I realized they had probably shot two different scenes of that, realized it was the same, and one of them needed to go because it's like the same thing happening twice. That's why they removed it. Wow, this is bad. Oh my god. In the council meeting, Halbrand is upset that he's being used by Galadriel, and Galadriel is so unrepentant about this, and to the point where she's just immediately like, "I need to use you more." Basically, it's so insufferable. Even knowing who Halbrand is, I'm like, it's like, excuse me, lady. This guy said no. No means no. It's just like wow. And then the story, that never likes to stay in one place for long, goes to the ever-traveling Renaissance Festival, and they're actually so paranoid that the stranger, the guy who's totally a wizard that's trailing after them with Nori, is causing like the forest to be bare and that for their trip to be dangerous. They're so concerned of that there's this lady who's saying that they should take the wheels of Nori's like group and abandon them. And she's like, it's like, you want more like a widower on your conscience or an orphan? I'm like, if you do that, you're definitely causing an orphan or an widow. You're killing this entire family on a hunch. Wow. What a cold-blooded society. Just wow. But then like immediately afterwards, he saves that very woman from like some wargs or something. So it, like that immediately resolves itself. Scene afterwards, like while he gets hurt from the wargs, and then he's healing himself with like ice stuff. The wizard is, and Nori like gets like injured from that and gets scared, runs off, and that's the end of that for this episode. We then go back to Galadriel, and she's teaching some Numenorians fighting, which is barely any teaching and just her like beating them up. It's kind of terrible. Like it goes on for so long of her just and she looks so smug about it. I'm like, why are you smug? You're thousands of years old. These are literally green recruits. Not even like seasoned soldiers of Numenor, but recruits. I think the way it was shot makes it think that it's supposed to be fun, like a fun fight scene, and it didn't. It just felt kind of almost like she's just beating up these poor recruits for her own amusement. And it's not shot very well. It's kind of terrible. The only thing that is positive about it is afterwards when someone gets a hit on her, she acknowledges it pretty like offhand, like and honestly it felt like the most likable thing she's done in a while, that she admitted that happened. I can't believe that's what I have to point to as her like most likable act in a long while. Wow. And then it goes to the scene with the Chancellor's son trying to convince the Chancellor that war is bad, and he's like, no, the war will help us because we will put the Southlands in our debt and whatnot, and he kind of brushed his son off or whatever, and that scene exists. So the son decides to end up trying to set fire to a ship, which is Isildur, because he's trying to sneak onto the ship to go with the expedition, even though he's not allowed on the expedition. Their stories converge, and ship blows up, but Isildur saves his life, but they don't tell anyone that that's what happened. They make up a story, and because of his heroism, Isildur gets on the ship for real, and that's good for him. And then Halbrand and Galadriel just keep hashing of her being like, you, like, I am doing this for you. Why are you fighting? And like, this is obviously not for him. It's like it's like kind of, it's almost icky how manipulative she's trying to be, of like, no, this is for you. It's so uh, and it's bizarre how, and I feel this way when I know who she's talking to. I think what they're trying to say, I mean, you could say that he's being deceitful during this, but it feels like what they're going for is that Sauron's actually trying to step away from things, which could work because there is a period in Sauron's life where he wanted to repent and almost did turn himself into the Valar and chickened out because he was afraid of the justice he would receive. Like, so I understand, like, if that's what they're going for, I kind of get it. It's like, this is the part of his life where he is trying to step away and he is trying to repent, sort of, in his own way, which is an interesting part of his life to explore. It is. The idea of Galadriel pulling him out of that retroactively makes her actions in The Lord of the Rings seem ridiculous. So it's like, if she's at fault for all of this, that completely changes your read on her. Are you serious? Like, that's crazy. It seems like him putting up a resistance, like, no, you don't know how I lived before, how I survived. And they have like a shot of the Southlanders kneeling to Adar kind of while he's saying that. It seems like that is a reference to his service to Morgoth and him kind of saying that it's just to survive, which is an interesting angle to take with his relationship with Morgoth. In a way, is potentially not inaccurate. Morgoth was a pretty terrible boss. So there is something very interesting there, and that is totally not being handled. First of all, you don't know you're not supposed to know who he is, and they're trying to give him like almost like, these scenes are not supposed to read the way I'm reading them. The fact that I know this means I'm reading it this way. For the record, how these scenes are supposed to read is almost like Aragorn, of like this reluctant king who's like, I'm not worthy of this, and that's how they're reading. That's how they're trying to make you feel. They even give him armor at the end of this episode. It's very reminiscent of Aragorn. It's like they're definitely trying to prop him up as the next or Aragorn so that they can pull the rug out from under you. Like, no, it's Sauron. That's what they're going for. It's not really working, but that's what they're going for. Somehow Galadriel convinces him to do through with it. There's nothing about what she says that like you could point to convince him to do it. Her thing boils down to like, I need to do this, and like he's like, why are you still doing, like, why? She's like, I can't stop. It's so like, even the opening of that conversation was freaking ridiculous, where she's like, I'm sorry for using you, and then immediately is trying to use him again. It's like, it's such a empty apology. You know it's bad because you know who she's talking to, and it still feels bad. But anyway, somehow I like what I did like. What I did like about that conversation was that when she brings up her brother, and Halbrand apologizes for it, which, knowing who he is, it's like an interesting thing to apologize for, because yeah, Finrod's very much dead because of him. And at the end, they all get on the ships, and Halbrand has embraced his role as the Southland's king, and she gets on the ship, and Galadriel's in armor now, and it's the music swells and the light is glowing as if we're like super happy about it. Like, yeah, she's back in armor where she belongs. The writers definitely misread how that scene would be felt by the audience, because you do not feel the way they're propping it up. It's like, okay, she's in armor again. What else happened in this show? I haven't even talked about Elrond yet. Okay, so there's the dinner with Elrond and Durin and Gil-galad and Celebrimbor, and it's really tense, uncomfortable, because for some reason Gil-galad sucks at diplomacy and is kind of an asshole, and Durin's an asshole back. Then we find out Gil-galad already knows about Mithril, and not only does he know, but that he needs Mithril to save the Elvish race from diminishing. I don't even know how to judge that. I think even the way they explain it is so like far removed from reality. Apparently, Mithril may have the power to recharge elvish souls so that they don't diminish and they don't have to leave back to the Undying Lands. Okay? I don't even know how to. I don't even know where to begin on that. But let's focus on let's focus on the story, because that seems like a can of worms that I don't need. I need more time to process. So, because of the importance of Mithril, apparently, Gil-galad sent Elrond to treat with the dwarves for this express purpose, but didn't tell Elrond this. So Elrond had no idea until now. I don't this, which makes no sense. I'm like, what? You sent him off on a mission he didn't even know he was on, and to hope that he'd find out about the Mithrils on accident. What? Okay. And he's like, okay, are the Mithrils really there? And he swore an oath to Durin. And it's like, I can't tell you, I swore an oath, which answers the question for the record. If he's bound by oath not to talk about something, it's like it's either it kind of answers the question. It's clear Gil-galad already knows, but it's treated like you need to break your oath to save your people. But like they already know the Mithril's there somehow, and Elrond doesn't really know any more information than yeah, it is. And Gil-galad's like you have to break this, you have to do this, and I'm like, first of all, Gil-galad, you know Elfish history. He can't break that oath. Like, just give him a break. Oaths in this universe are not broken. They're not. Okay, that's not how this works. The Oath of Feanor, the like, don't ask an elf to break their oaths. You know better than that. Just leave them alone. And then we find out that Celebrimbor knows, and that Celebrimbor's tested the Mithril. Like, tested how? Where did he get the Mithril? It's implied that Elrond gave him the Mithril, but he promised not to tell anyone about it. So how did he test it without know? So they all know. So let's break this down for a second. We are looking at a story where it's set up this moral conflict of, do I break this oath to my friend to try to save my people? And the oath is to not talk about such and such thing. But the people that you would say such and such thing to already know about such and such thing, but are still demanding that you tell them the thing that they already know. What? What is the conflict here? What does Gil-galad need to know from him? He already knows, apparently. It's just, what is happening? Okay, he doesn't really break his oath, technically, so I'm happy about that, because I was really concerned that was going to be a thing. But this whole conflict that they have engineered doesn't function. Like, it doesn't work the moment you look at it. So what are they trying to... I don't understand it. It would have made so much more sense if they didn't know about the Mithril, right? And they're like, how do I save our people or whatever? And somehow Elrond finds out that it could. And the moral dilemma is whether to tell them about this thing that could save their people or not. That is real. This is not real. This is a false conflict because they already know about it. And it's not even a conflict with Durin, because he talks to Durin and Durin's like, I'll help you. There's no... The conflict doesn't exist. It doesn't exist. Oh, I don't know. I don't know what I'm doing here. I don't know what I'm doing here. I don't understand this. At least they didn't make him break his oath on a technicality, because he kind of did. He accidentally did, because he kind of accidentally revealed that it's there just by the fact that he has an oath. That's just, I don't understand the writing of the story. I don't. What is happening? What is happening? Well, okay. I think I can't think of anything else to talk about. On to the next one, I guess.